Welcome to the channel, where we dive into the shadows of history's unsolved enigmas. Picture a ship adrift in the vast Atlantic, its sails catching the wind, but not a single soul aboard. No blood, no struggle, just an eerie silence heavy as the fog. This is the mystery of the Mary Celeste, one of the most haunting maritime puzzles ever recorded. In December of 1872, this merchant brigantine was found wandering between the Azores and Portugal, its cargo intact, food on the table, but its captain, his family, and 7 crewmen gone without a trace. What force could erase 10 people from a seaworthy ship, leaving everything in place? The Mary Celeste sailed from New York to Genoa in November of 1872, commanded by Captain Benjamin Briggs, a seasoned mariner. With him were his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and a crew of 7, all confident in a routine voyage. The ship carried 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol, a valuable but volatile cargo. When the Dei Gratia, another merchant ship, found it weeks later, the Mary Celeste was eerily preserved. Sails half set, a meal half eaten, even a child's medicine bottle and toy left behind. No note, no distress signal, just a void where 10 lives should have been. What happened to the crew? Did a storm sweep them away? Did they flee, fearing an explosion from the alcohol's fumes? Or did the ocean claim them with something it refuses to name? Investigations in Gibraltar raised theories of mutiny, piracy, or fraud, but none fit the scene. Sailors of the era whispered of ghost ships, of strange lights on the horizon, of things rising from the deep. Over a century later, the Mary Celeste remains unsolved, its secrets sunk in the Atlantic's depths. Logbooks, documents, and modern simulations offer clues, but the truth slips through like water. Prepare for a journey that doesn't just recount a disappearance, but makes you feel the sway of the waves, the creak of the timbers, and the chill of a ship abandoned under an endless sky. What would you do if you boarded a vessel deserted at sea, with only the ocean's whisper for company? If you're drawn to mysteries that defy logic and pull you into the abyss, subscribe and hit the bell to join us on this voyage through the Atlantic. Let's uncover what lies behind the silence of the Mary Celeste. Part 1. The ship and its crew. In the 19th century, the oceans were the highways of global trade, and merchant sailing ships like the Mary Celeste were their beating heart. In 1872, this 282-ton brigantine, sturdy but unassuming, stood ready to cross the Atlantic from New York to Genoa, Italy. Its captain, Benjamin Spooner Briggs, aged 37, was a seasoned mariner known for his discipline and devotion to family. Aboard were his wife Sarah and their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, along with a crew of 7 carefully chosen sailors. Together, these 10 souls embarked on what seemed a routine voyage, unaware it would become one of history's greatest maritime mysteries. The Mary Celeste, built in 1861 in Nova Scotia, was not new, but had been refitted for this journey. Its hold carried 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol, a valuable cargo destined for Italy's wine industry. Though hazardous due to flammable vapors, the alcohol was secured, and Briggs, with years of transatlantic experience, had no reason for concern. The crew included first mate Albert Richardson, a skilled navigator, and sailors like the German brothers Volkert and Bos Lorenzen, all with solid reputations. The cook and steward, Edward Head, ensured hot meals for the long voyage. Each man knew the stakes of the sea, yet trusted in their captain's command. The era was one of faith in progress, but also of respect for the ocean's power. Sailing ships relied on wind and skill, and the Atlantic, with its sudden storms, was a formidable foe. Briggs, methodical to a fault, kept a detailed logbook to track positions, winds, and events. Having his family aboard was not unusual. Captains often brought loved ones on long voyages. Yet the Mary Celeste carried whispers of ill fortune. Originally named Amazon, it had a history of wrecks and ownership changes, earning a cursed reputation among superstitious sailors. Before departing, Briggs wrote to his mother, expressing confidence but noting the autumn's unpredictable weather. As the crew loaded barrels in Staten Island, they swapped tales of ships lost in the Atlantic, of strange lights on the horizon, of crews that never returned. Briggs, a practical man, dismissed such stories, but the mood on the dock was heavy, the air thick with salt and unease. The Mary Celeste, with its sails ready and cargo secured, stood poised to enter a voyage that would etch its name into legend. The Atlantic waited, vast and silent, its waves hiding secrets no chart could reveal. As the ship prepared to leave New York, no one could imagine that these 10 people, captain, family and crew, would vanish without a trace, turning the Mary Celeste into a name synonymous with mystery and dread. Part 3. Discovery of the Ghost Ship. On December 4th, 1872, the Atlantic stretched grey and endless, hiding a secret that would chill the maritime world. The Dei Gratia, a British merchant ship, was sailing between the Azores and Portugal when its crew spotted a silhouette on the horizon. It was the Mary Celeste, the brigantine that had left New York a month earlier under Captain Benjamin Briggs. Something was wrong. Its sails were half set, some torn, and it drifted aimlessly, as if unmanned. When the Dei Gratia's crew boarded, they found a silence that cut deeper than the ocean's roar. The 10 souls aboard, Briggs, his wife Sarah, their daughter Sophia, and 7 sailors, had vanished without a trace. The Mary Celeste was a ghost ship in open water. Captain David Morehouse, leading the Dei Gratia, ordered a search. No signs of struggle, no blood, no broken furniture. The cargo of 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol sat intact in the hold. The galley held half-prepared food, a cup of tea gone cold, even a child's medicine bottle and toy beside Sophia's bunk. The logbook, found in Briggs's cabin, ended on November 25th, noting a position near Santa Maria Island in the Azores. Missing were the sextant, chronometer, and a lifeboat. The rudder was loose, and one bilge pump was disassembled, but the ship wasn't sinking. Water in the hold was normal for a stormy crossing. The silence was the most unnerving. Sails flapped against the wind, and the timbers creaked as if whispering. No note, no distress signal, just an eerie stillness. The Dei Gratia's crew, hardened sailors, felt a chill. The Atlantic, with its thick fog and restless waves, seemed to watch. What could erase 10 people, leaving food, water, and belongings behind? Did they flee in the lifeboat, fearing something aboard? Or did the ocean claim them with a force it wouldn't name? Initial impressions pointed to a sudden abandonment. Morehouse, who knew Briggs personally, couldn't fathom why a disciplined captain would desert a seaworthy ship. Whispers began among the Dei Gratia's crew. A storm? A navigation error? Or something sailors only spoke of in hushed tones, tales of cursed ships swallowed by the sea. The Mary Celeste was towed to Gibraltar for an official inquiry, but its emptiness had already made it a legend. The ocean, vast and indifferent, held the truth, leaving only questions that would echo for generations. If you were on the Dei Gratia, boarding a deserted ship with the wind howling around you, what would you think? A logical explanation, or something the sea won't tell? Share your theory in the comments. Part 4. Condition of the ship. When the Dei Gratia boarded the Mary Celeste on December 4th, 1872, the silence aboard was so thick it seemed to breathe. Found drifting between the Azores and Portugal, the brigantine was eerily intact, yet devoid of its 10 crew members. Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their daughter Sophia, and 7 sailors. The inspection by Captain David Morehouse and his crew revealed details that turned the Mary Celeste into a floating enigma. Every item, every corner, seemed to hold a story cut short, but the ocean kept the ending to itself. The ship was seaworthy, though disheveled. Its main sails were set, but some were torn, flapping loosely as if battered by wind. The hold contained 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol, nearly all intact. Only 9 had broken, likely from rough seas. About 3 feet of water sloshed in the hold, but this was typical for a stormy voyage, and the ship was far from sinking. One bilge pump was disassembled, but another was functional. The rudder was loose, yet undamaged, suggesting the Mary Celeste had been left to drift. carried by Atlantic currents. In the captain's cabin, Briggs's logbook ended on November 25, 1872, noting a position near Santa Maria Island in the Azores, roughly 500 miles from where the ship was found. The sextant, chronometer, and a lifeboat were missing, hinting at a deliberate abandonment. Yet the crew's clothing, charts, and provisions, salted meat, biscuits, fresh water, remained untouched. In the galley, a half-prepared meal and a cold cup of tea sat abandoned. A child's medicine bottle and Sophia's toy lay forgotten in the cabin, making the silence heavier, as if time had stopped mid-breath. No signs of violence marred the scene. No blood, no broken furniture, no weapons out of place. The logbook mentioned no storms or distress, only routine entries. A single rope, cut and dangling over the side, suggested a hasty escape, perhaps tied to the missing lifeboat. The Dei Gratia's crew, walking the creaking deck, felt the ship's emptiness like a presence. The Atlantic, with its grey waves and clinging fog, seemed to watch, indifferent. Why abandon a functional ship with food and water? What could scare a seasoned captain like Briggs into fleeing? The details baffled. The Mary Celeste, with its untouched cargo and personal relics, seemed frozen in a moment of panic, yet offered no reason for it. The sailors of the Dei Gratia, hardened by the sea, felt a chill as they searched, as if the ship held a secret the ocean wouldn't share. The Mary Celeste wasn't just a vessel, it was a puzzle that defied reason, a challenge to the logic of those who dared to board its silent deck. Part 5. Initial Investigations. The discovery of the Mary Celeste, adrift and empty on December 4, 1872, sent ripples of shock from the Atlantic to the courtrooms of Gibraltar. Towed there by the Dei Gratia, the brigantine became the focus of an official inquiry seeking to unravel the disappearance of its 10 crew members: Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their daughter Sophia, and 7 sailors. Led by Judge Frederick Solly Flood, the investigation scrutinized every detail of the ship, but the clues only deepened the mystery, as if the ocean had erased the truth with a silent hand. The Gibraltar inquiry confirmed the Mary Celeste's seaworthy state. Its cargo of 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol was largely intact, with only 9 barrels broken. Provisions, salted meat, biscuits, fresh water were sufficient, and no signs of violence were found. No blood, no broken furniture, no weapons misplaced. The logbook, ending on November 25, 1872, near Santa Maria Island in the Azores, noted no storms or conflicts. The missing lifeboat, sextant and chronometer suggested an intentional abandonment, yet the 3 feet of water in the hold and a disassembled bilge pump weren't enough to threaten the ship. Why would Briggs abandon a functional vessel? Solly Flood, a meticulous judge, suspected foul play, particularly insurance fraud. The Mary Celeste was insured for a significant sum, leading some to speculate that Briggs and Dei Gratia's captain, David Morehouse, who knew each other, might have staged the abandonment to claim the payout. But no evidence of collusion emerged, and Briggs's sterling reputation made such a scheme unlikely. Mutiny was another theory, but the crew, hand-picked and professional, left no signs of rebellion. The absence of damage or theft ruled out piracy. The valuable alcohol cargo and personal items, like Sophia's toy and Sarah's clothes, remained untouched. Rumours swirled in Gibraltar's docks. Sailors whispered of sudden disasters, a rogue wave, a navigational error, but the Atlantic's weather reports showed no catastrophic storms. The press, from London to New York, dubbed the Mary Celeste a ghost ship, fueling public fascination. Investigators were stumped. Why would a seasoned captain like Briggs abandon a ship with food and water? The lack of a distress note or any clue to the crew's fate left the inquiry grasping at shadows. The ocean, with its restless waves and heavy fog, seemed to mock their efforts. The Mary Celeste, moored in Gibraltar, stood as a silent challenge. Its empty deck and untouched relics, a child's medicine bottle, a cold cup of tea, felt like a frozen moment of panic, but without a cause. The investigators, hardened by maritime cases, sensed the weight of the unknown, as if the Atlantic watched them. Was it human error, a calculated plot, or something the sea refused to reveal? The initial inquiries laid the foundation for a mystery that would haunt the world, each unanswered question cementing the Mary Celeste's place as a legend of the deep. Part 6. Rational Theories. The Mary Celeste, found empty on December 4, 1872, defied all reason. With its cargo of 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol mostly intact, provisions untouched, and no signs of violence, the disappearance of Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their daughter Sophia, and 7 sailors sparked endless speculation. As Gibraltar's investigators struggled to explain why a seaworthy ship was abandoned, rational theories emerged, pointing to storms, mechanical failures, or fear of an onboard disaster. Yet each explanation, grounded in logic, stumbled against the Atlantic's silent refusal to yield answers. One leading theory focused on a storm. Though the logbook, last updated on November 25, 1872, noted no severe weather, the autumn Atlantic was notoriously unpredictable. 3 feet of water in the hold and a disassembled bilge pump suggested Briggs feared the ship was sinking. A sudden squall could have prompted a panicked evacuation to the missing lifeboat. But the Mary Celeste showed no catastrophic damage. Torn sails and a loose rudder weren't enough to justify abandoning food, water, and clothing. Why didn't the crew wait out the storm? Another hypothesis centered on the cargo's alcohol vapors. The 1,701 barrels contained raw alcohol, which could release flammable gases if improperly vented. 9 broken barrels, likely from rough seas, might have filled the hold with fumes, leading Briggs to fear an explosion. Some propose he ordered the crew to the lifeboat, planning to return after airing out the ship. A cut rope dangling over the side suggests the lifeboat was tethered but broke free, possibly swept away by currents. Yet Briggs, an experienced captain, would have known the risks of open water. Abandoning a stable ship seems an unlikely choice. A navigational error was also considered. Without the missing sextant and chronometer, Briggs might have miscalculated the ship's position. The logbook placed the Mary Celeste near Santa Maria Island, 500 miles from its discovery point. Could the crew have believed they were closer to land, prompting a misguided evacuation? This doesn't explain leaving provisions behind or the absence of distress signals. The ship, with half-set sails and intact supplies, appeared abandoned in a moment of confusion, not calculation. These rational theories, while plausible, falter under scrutiny. The lack of definitive evidence, no storm damage, no explosion marks, no clear navigational mistake, leaves gaps. The Atlantic, with its grey waves and heavy fog, seemed to taunt investigators, its depths hiding the truth. The Mary Celeste, with its cold tea and forgotten toys, stood as a riddle logic couldn't solve. Was it a storm, toxic fumes, or a misjudgment? Or did the ocean conceal something darker? If you were on that ship, smelling the salt and feeling the waves, would you trust a logical answer or sense something deeper in the Atlantic's whisper? Share your theory in the comments. Part 7. Crime and Conspiracy Theories. The Mary Celeste, found adrift and empty on December 4th, 1872, baffled rational explanations, opening the door to darker theories of crime and conspiracy. The disappearance of Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their daughter Sophia, and 7 sailors, with no signs of violence on a seaworthy ship, led investigators in Gibraltar to suspect foul play. With 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol intact, provisions untouched, and only a lifeboat, sextant and chronometer missing, questions of mutiny, piracy, or fraud arose. Yet each theory, steeped in suspicion, collided with the ocean's silent refusal to reveal the truth. Mutiny was an early suspect. The crew, though hand-picked and professional, might have harbored tensions. First mate Albert Richardson and sailors like the Lorenzen brothers were experienced, but life at sea could fracture loyalty. Could they have turned on Briggs fleeing in the lifeboat? The absence of blood, displaced weapons, or damage, combined with untouched provisions, clothing, and Sophia's toy, made a violent mutiny unlikely. Abandoning a functional ship in the open Atlantic was a desperate act, even for mutineers, and no signs of struggle supported this idea. Piracy was another theory. Though rare on the New York to Genoa route in 1872, pirates could have boarded the Mary Celeste, eliminating the crew and taking the lifeboat. But the valuable alcohol cargo remained untouched, and personal items, Sarah's clothes, the child's medicine bottle, were left behind. A pirate attack so clean, leaving no trace of violence, seemed implausible. The ship's orderly state, with a half-eaten meal and a cold cup of tea, suggested no chaotic raid had occurred. The most persistent theory was insurance fraud. Judge Frederick Solly Flood in Gibraltar suspected a plot between Briggs and Dei Gratia's captain, David Morehouse, who were acquaintances. The Mary Celeste was insured for a hefty sum, and Morehouse claimed a salvage reward for towing it. Could they have staged the abandonment to split the payout? Briggs's impeccable reputation and the risk of abandoning his family in a lifeboat made this unlikely. No evidence of collusion surfaced, and the inquiry found no financial motive strong enough to justify such a scheme. Rumours swirled in Gibraltar's docks and beyond. Sailors whispered of betrayal, of secret deals struck in the Atlantic's fog. Some pointed fingers at the Dei Gratia's crew, suggesting they played a role in the disappearance. Yet the Mary Celeste, with its untouched cargo and silent deck, offered no proof. The ocean, with its restless waves and heavy mist, seemed to watch, indifferent. Was it a human crime, a calculated conspiracy, or something the sea claimed for itself? The ship anchored in Gibraltar mocked investigators, its empty cabins echoing a mystery they couldn't unravel. Part 8. Maritime Tales and Myths. The Mary Celeste, found empty on December 4, 1872, did more than puzzle investigators. It became a legend woven into maritime folklore. The disappearance of Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their daughter Sophia, and 7 sailors, with no signs of violence aboard a seaworthy vessel, resonated with stories of ghost ships and cursed voyages. With its 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol untouched and its provisions abandoned, the Mary Celeste joined the ranks of myths like the Flying Dutchman, feeding a primal fear of the ocean as a place where mysteries are born and truths are swallowed. In the 19th century, the sea was a realm of superstition. Sailors spoke of the Flying Dutchman, a ghostly ship doomed to sail forever, its crew trapped by a curse. They whispered about St. Elmo's fire, strange lights dancing on masts, seen as omens of disaster. The Mary Celeste, with its missing lifeboat and a logbook that ended on November 25th, fit this eerie tradition. When the crew of the Dei Gratia boarded its silent deck, they felt a chill beyond the Atlantic wind. A cup of tea left half-finished, Sophia's forgotten toy, and the creaking timbers seemed to echo a story the sea refused to tell. From Gibraltar to New York, ports buzzed with rumors. Some sailors claimed to have glimpsed the Mary Celeste before its discovery, drifting in fog with no lights or signals. Others swore they saw shadows moving across its deck under moonlight, though no one was aboard. These tales, likely embellished, reflected a deeper truth. The ocean was alive, a keeper of secrets. With torn sails and untouched supplies, the Mary Celeste seemed like a ship claimed by the sea, its crew erased by something beyond storms or piracy. Maritime folklore brimmed with stories of strange phenomena, whirlpools appearing without warning, fogs that confounded even the most seasoned navigators. As the Dei Gratia towed the Mary Celeste, her crew felt the ocean watching, waves whispering in a language they could not grasp. The ship's orderly abandonment, meals left unfinished, a rope cut as if in haste, hinted at a terror beyond reason, as if the crew had fled from something no logbook could ever capture. Did they glimpse lights flickering in the fog, or hear a sound rising from the deep? The Mary Celeste became a myth because the sea thrives on fear. Its silent cabins and untouched cargo embodied the horror of vanishing without a trace. Like the ghost ship legends before it, the Mary Celeste embodied the sailor's dread of an ocean that could erase lives and leave only questions. Her deck, swaying in the grey embrace of the Atlantic, stood as a monument to the unknown, a reminder that some stories belong to the sea alone. Part 9. Paranormal and Supernatural Theories. The Mary Celeste, found empty on December 4th, 1872, defied rational and criminal explanations, opening the door to theories that venture beyond the edge of reason. The disappearance of Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their daughter Sophia, and 7 sailors, with no signs of violence on a seaworthy ship, invited speculation that reached into the paranormal. With 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol intact, provisions untouched, and only a lifeboat, sextant, and chronometer missing, the enigma fueled ideas of otherworldly forces. The ocean, with its dark depths, became a canvas for tales of the inexplicable, where the line between fear and reality blurred. One popular, if fantastical, theory suggested an encounter with a sea creature. In the 19th century, sailors told stories of giant serpents or colossal squids capable of dragging entire ships to the depths. Could such a monster have terrified the crew, driving them to flee in the lifeboat? The Mary Celeste showed no damage beyond torn sails and 3 feet of water in the hold, making a physical attack unlikely. Yet the fear of something rising from the deep could have sparked panic, especially with the logbook's abrupt end on November 25th, 1872, offering no hint of what they saw. Another hypothesis pointed to inexplicable atmospheric phenomena. Some speculated about waterspouts or rogue whirlpools that could suck a crew into the sea in an instant. Others spoke of St. Elmo's fire, eerie lights on the masts, seen by sailors as supernatural warnings. Could the crew have spotted something in the fog, a glowing shape, a shadow without source that drove them to abandon ship? The Dei Gratia's crew reported no such phenomena, but the Atlantic's heavy mists and restless waves seemed to hold secrets beyond human grasp. Bolder theories ventured into the paranormal. In the 19th century, some whispered of abductions by beings from beyond Earth, a notion laughable now but reflective of the era's fear of the unknown. Others linked the Mary Celeste to the Bermuda Triangle, though it was far from that region. The ship's cursed history as the Amazon, marked by wrecks and deaths, fueled ideas of a supernatural taint. Could a malevolent force have claimed the crew, leaving the ship as a hollow shell? The untouched cargo, the cold tea, and Sophia's toy suggested a moment of terror frozen in time. The ocean, with its endless horizon and depths that swallow light, amplifies such ideas. The Mary Celeste, its deck creaking under the Dei Gratia's crew, felt alive with absence, as if something lingered in its silence. Was it human panic, or did the Atlantic claim the crew with a force it would not name? If you stood on that ship, waves whispering and a light flickering in the fog, would you trust a rational answer or fear the shadows the ocean hides? Share your theory in the comments. Part 10. Modern Investigations. The enigma of the Mary Celeste, found empty on December 4th, 1872, has haunted maritime history, but modern investigations have sought to pierce the ocean's veil. The disappearance of Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their daughter Sophia, and 7 sailors, with a seaworthy ship left behind, defies easy answers. With 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol mostly intact and provisions untouched, theories of storms, crimes, or supernatural forces fall short. Recent studies using logbook analysis, weather simulations, and oceanographic data offer new insights, yet the Atlantic keeps the crew's fate locked in its depths. Scholars have re-examined the logbook, last updated on November 25, 1872, placing the Mary Celeste near Santa Maria Island in the Azores, about 500 miles from its discovery point. This discrepancy suggests navigational errors or strong currents. Modern weather models show the Atlantic in November 1872 faced moderate storms, not catastrophic ones. The 3 feet of water in the hold and a disassembled bilge pump hint that Briggs feared flooding, but the ship was far from sinking. Why abandon a vessel with food, water, and clothing? A leading theory proposed by historian Anne McGregor in 2005 focuses on the cargo's alcohol vapors. 9 broken barrels could have released flammable gases, prompting Briggs to fear an explosion. McGregor suggests he evacuated the crew to the lifeboat, tethered by a rope, found cut on the ship, intending to return after venting the hold. Oceanographic studies indicate strong Atlantic currents could have snapped the rope, stranding the crew. Without the missing sextant and chronometer, they were helpless, likely succumbing to waves or cold. Yet why leave provisions behind? Other analyses explore the ship's condition. The lack of major damage, only torn sails and a loose rudder, rules out collisions or attacks. Chemical tests in 1993 confirmed the alcohol cargo did not ignite, but a minor unrecorded vapor flare could have sparked panic. Psychological studies suggest Briggs, though experienced, might have acted impulsively under stress, misjudging the ship's safety. The presence of personal items, Sophia's toy, Sarah's clothes, implies no intent to abandon permanently, deepening the mystery of their hasty exit. Despite these efforts, no theory is conclusive. Why did not Briggs seek nearby land like the Azores? Why no distress signal? The Mary Celeste, with its untouched cargo and silent deck, remains a puzzle. Modern tools trace its journey from New York to its abandonment, but the crew's end lies beyond reach, swallowed by the ocean's grey expanse. Was it a miscalculation, a rogue current, or something the Atlantic will not reveal? The ship, a frozen echo of despair, leaves us staring at the horizon, chasing a truth that slips away. Part 11. Cultural Legacy. The vanishing of the Mary Celeste, found empty on December 4, 1872, did not fade into obscurity but grew into a myth that ripples through time. The disappearance of Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their daughter Sophia and 7 sailors, with no trace of violence on a seaworthy ship, made the Mary Celeste a symbol of the ocean's mysteries. Like the Franklin expedition or Roanoke, its unresolved enigma fuels literature, film, and a haunting fascination with the sea's untamed power, where secrets sink into darkness. In the 19th century, the Mary Celeste gripped the public's imagination. Newspapers in London and New York dubbed it the ghost ship, spinning sensational headlines. In 1884, a young Arthur Conan Doyle published a fictional tale, J. Habakkuk Jeffson's Statement, blending fact with fantasy, mutiny, racial plots, a deranged captain. Though invented, it cemented the ship's legend, blurring truth and myth for decades. The Mary Celeste merged with maritime lore, echoing tales of the Flying Dutchman, a cursed vessel doomed to wander. In the 20th century, the story found new life. Films like The Mystery of the Mary Celeste, 1935, starring Bela Lugosi, dramatized the vanishing with hints of piracy or madness. Documentaries such as The True Story of the Mary Celeste, 2007, dissected the logbook and Gibraltar findings, keeping the facts alive. Folk songs and sea shanties wove the ship into maritime culture, evoking the fragility of life at sea. Museum exhibits in Halifax and London display replicas of the logbook and period artifacts, drawing crowds eager to touch the mystery. The Mary Celeste shaped how we view the ocean, a sublime, terrifying force. Its story parallels other enigmas, like MH370 or the Bermuda Triangle, where entire groups vanish without trace. It taught sailors to fear the Atlantic's sudden storms and currents, a lesson etched in its empty deck. Culturally, it reinforced the sea as a living entity, capable of erasing lives without explanation. Sophia's toy, the cold cup of tea, became icons of a moment frozen, a narrative the ocean refuses to finish. The mystery endures because it resists closure. Theories, storms, fumes, conspiracies fall short, leaving the crew's fate lost in the waves. The Mary Celeste challenges our need for answers, mirroring our dread of the unknown. It asks what drives us to brave the untamable, and what remains when the sea claims its due. Its silent deck, swaying in the Atlantic's grip, whispers that question, as if the crew still lingers in the fog. Part 12. Reflection and Closure. The enigma of the Mary Celeste lingers like a fog that never lifts. On December 4, 1872, the brigantine was found adrift in the Atlantic, its 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol intact, provisions untouched, but Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their daughter Sophia, and 7 sailors gone without a trace. The logbook, frozen on November 25th, a missing lifeboat, and a cold cup of tea paint a scene of sudden abandonment, yet no explanation holds. Investigations from Gibraltar to modern studies suggest storms, toxic fumes, or human error, but the ocean guards the crew's fate with unrelenting silence. Every clue, the cut rope, the disassembled bilge pump, Sophia's forgotten toy, answers one question and spawns a dozen more. Why would a seasoned captain like Briggs abandon a seaworthy ship? What drove them to the lifeboat, leaving food and water behind? Sailors' tales of strange lights and modern theories of rogue currents offer no closure. The Mary Celeste, with its creaking deck and untouched cargo, feels like a moment of terror suspended, as if the crew was snatched by something the sea won't name. Imagine standing on that ship, the wind whispering, waves lapping at the hull. Fog cloaks the horizon, and a shadow flickers in the water, sourceless. Would you trust your charts, or fear something no compass can track? The Mary Celeste isn't just a mystery, it's a mirror reflecting our dread of the unknown, a warning that the ocean bows to no one. The crew, lost somewhere between the Azores and eternity, leaves us wondering, what would you do alone at sea with only the ship's silence for company? This tale, woven into books, films and songs, reminds us that some secrets are bigger than us. The Mary Celeste, drifting in the Atlantic's grey embrace, stands as proof that the sea can erase lives and keep the truth. If this journey through the fog has gripped you, if you feel the weight of that empty deck, join us to unravel more mysteries. Subscribe, hit the bell, and share this video to bring others into the enigma of the Mary Celeste. Thank you for sailing with us to the edge of this story, the ocean never told.